you can get frostbite. That's burning too, a different kind of burning, but you burn. And the theory is that cold is much more, people suffer more with cold than they do with burning. Okay. So therefore, the old saying, snowball's chance in hell, if hell were actually cold, well, then the snowball would actually last. That's the whole point behind that. But anyway, as we all understand hell to be, or Hades to be, it's hotter than you know what. And people actually burn by fire, not by cold. So he's got a snowball's chance in Hades in getting the Democratic nomination. And, of course, but by some fluke, he was the only one left. And he got the nomination because everybody else was dropped out or what have you, whatever happened. He was the only candidate left standing. Then he got the nomination. It would even be an even greater, a leap for him to be actually elected president. But yet and still, he doesn't think that Hillary's got the stuff, which is why he's going to enter the race. And he wants to be able to pull the Democrat Party even further to the left. Further to the left. Now, this guy served 16 years in the House, and he will have served, by his current term is up, he will have served 12 years in the Senate, putting him in office in Washington for 28 years. 28. That's a career. Most people, they retire when they hit the 25 to 30 year mark in certain industries or businesses. If you're military, you probably retire at the 20 to 22 year mark. But this guy will have 28 years in, unless he runs for re-election. But 28 years in Washington, D.C. And this is one of the reasons why some people are kind of backing Rand Paul. Now, Rand Paul was in Louisville earlier this month, and a few days ago for his presidential campaign. He was there for his kickoff, too, and he delivered a thunderous pronouncement to cheering supporters. We limit the presidents to 2 terms. It's about time we limit the terms of Congress, what Paul said. Now, obviously, even though a majority of Americans are now on board with the idea of term limits for the House and the Senate, there is no rounding agreement on the number of terms, especially for the House, because the House is only 2 years. There are some people who say that 1 term in the Senate, it should be enough, and other people say that 2 terms, and even there are some that say 3 terms, and I think 2 terms, 12 years is plenty, but 18 years, really, as a senator? No. But some say that, the 2 terms max, 12 years in the Senate. In the House, it's a little bit more difficult because they're only there for 2 years. So some say that 2 terms there, that only puts them 4 years. And some are saying, maybe we can give them the equivalency, the president, since, after all, the Speaker of the House is, third in line for the presidency, or second in line of the presidency. If something should happen to the president, it goes vice president, then the Speaker of the House. That maybe they should get 4 terms or 8 years total, like the president. And in any case, at least the discussion is that the majority of Americans, poll after poll, suggest that they do like the idea of term limits. Now, keep that in mind, as when this type of information or hit the U.S. Senate, the idea was quickly dismissed. And even dismissed by fellow Republicans. See, folks, they're not interested in representing you all the time. They're interested in keeping and retaining power. Now, up here, I think if you impose officially short-term limit restrictions, then you just empower the lobby and the staff and it makes it less representative of the American people. So said Texas Senator John Cornyn. Well, that's a bunch of bunk because, you get rid of the staff. If you got a new guy in office every 2 terms, or in the case of the House, every 4 terms, the lobby doesn't have time to get to sink their claws into them. And they're not going to spend a whole hell of a lot of time or money into somebody that they know that they cannot foster for a very long period of time, no matter even if they try to back them. Because, after 12 years in the Senate, if it's a 2-term limit, they're gone. They're going to have to turn their attention to somebody else. And after 8 limits in the House, they're gone. But I think what also needs to happen is that you need to limit these people from, because they tend to think that, well, yeah, I'll just be I'll be in the House, I'll be a representative for 4 or 8 years, and then I'll move over to the Senate. No, we've got to, have term limits that limit the amount of time that they can be on in any level of government. So in other words, because the House are 2 equals of the legislative branch, you can say, well, you can serve maybe we just need to put a number of years in. You can serve a total of 12 years in Congress, period. Doesn't matter where you do it. If you do it in the House or if you do it in the Senate or if you do it a combination, maybe 12 years is it. That's it. You're done. So you don't get to spend 8 years as a House of Representative and another 12 years in the Senate and then another 8 years in the White House. You can just, you got 12 years. And then you're going to have to go do something else. Maybe you have to run for president, and if you're good enough, then you'll get 4 or 8 years there. But you're not going to get 20 years in Congress anymore. I think that's probably the better type of term limit system. Is limit the total number of years you're allowed to serve. Because let's face it, this is a nation of 330 million people. You cannot possibly tell me that 535 people are the only 535 people who are qualified to run this country. Again, as I say time and time again, in this country, the start of this country, most of the founding fathers were political amateurs. They were not professional politicians in their day. They were amateurs. Amateurs started this country. They did a damn good job of doing it. So, over the past 100, 150 years, we've had professional politicians running everything. So the professional politician pretty much has screwed up everything. So now I just always say, well, now it's time to give the amateurs a shot because we can't do any worse than the professionals have done. And indeed, the record for the amateur is better than the record of the professional. Now, I'm not saying that you have amateurs everywhere. Of course, you're going to need some people who know what they're, who have experience in their various fields of import, such as you want Joint Chiefs of Staff, you want military personnel up there that are experienced professional soldiers, military people. You might want a few professional, international affairs people in your State Department. Yes, but the Secretary of State does not have to be a professional politician. Absolutely not. The president does not have to be a professional politician. That's why they have advisors. That's why because a president can't possibly know everything. The problem is when you get a president like our current one who thinks that he knows more than everybody else and doesn't really pay attention to his advisors and indeed often skips the meetings where, that his advisors will tell him and give him briefings about stuff and then what he should, what he could possibly think about or do with the information. This president often skips that kind of stuff, so we're told. I don't know. I'd rather have an amateur who's paying attention than a professional who skips everything and thinks he knows it all. Plain and simple. That's not a difficult thing to envision as having a complete, because I know we hear it all the time. We need people who have experience to be president. They've got to have experience, don't you know? Well, not necessarily. Not as president. They should have some leadership experience. I agree. Look, all our founding fathers presidents, they were leaders in their community. They had leadership experience. And that's a good thing. Because, if you're going to be the leader of 230 million people, you should have some sort of leadership skills and experience under your belt in order to do it. I don't have a problem with that. That's not I guess you can call him a professional leader then, instead of a professional politician. Nothing wrong with that, because let's face it, it's not hypocritical to say that, there are some Republicans that don't have political experience, like Obama. But they may have leadership experience, unlike Obama. The man is not a leader. He's just a whiny crybaby, do what I say, do what I want, no matter what type of, spoiled brat. That's not leadership. And indeed, nobody in the world is following this guy. Do you realize that? Nobody in the world is following Obama's lead. Nobody. I mean, Obama's out there saying, well, hey, the world's on fire down there in the Middle East, but, hey, just do what I say. And you got people like, the new Saudi king saying, screw you. If you're not going to help us, if you're not going to lead it, we're just going to take this Yemen thing and Iran on ourselves. And if you're going to give them a weapon, we're probably going to have to end up teaming up with Israel to take out their nuclear reactors and such, just for our own self-preservation, because you're an a-hole with no leadership. We're not following you anywhere. So nobody in the world is following Obama. Look, you have to understand, I don't care if you're a liberal or if you're a conservative or somewhere in the middle, you cannot deny the fact that the world has pretty much shunned Obama. They've isolated the man. They don't give a damn what he says. That includes our allies. They tolerate this guy. Angela Merkel of Germany. You think she's following any direction of this? No. You think Great Britain, the Prime Minister, he's following Obama? No. If Obama comes up with an idea, he's like, okay, let's think about it. Well, it sounds like it. Well, you know what? We're going to keep all our assets under British control. Because we're not following you. You may come up with a decent idea, but we'll make it better, and we're still not going to follow you. And you got the countries in the Middle East that used to follow the U.S. and used to pay attention to the United States and used to care about what we thought about certain things in the Middle East, are now turning around giving us the finger, and they're supposed to be our allies. Hey, now Saudi Arabia, don't be hasty. They're giving it a turn around. Yeah, screw you, Obama. We're gonna form our own coalition over here in the Middle East, in spite of you. And then, of course, you got our enemies, people that don't like us very much. You got Putin over there just laughing his you-know-what off at Obama. And then you got... nobody's following this guy. Nobody. So why should Americans follow him? I don't know, folks. But, out of time again. Good. Let's go so fast. We'll see you tomorrow, folks. Have a great night and a great day. See you tomorrow.